Hi, my name is Mark Hoffman, and I'm a product manager here at Kemp. I'm here today to talk about the launch of LMOS 7253 and of the new network telemetry feature on LoadMaster, one of the many new features available in 7253. I'm very excited about network telemetry in particular because it represents the integration of the Flowmon probe and collector, the premier network telemetry product on the market today, with LoadMaster, and represents a quantum leap forward in the analytics and diagnostics available to LoadMaster users for keeping the applications running behind LoadMaster secure and delivering the best user experience possible. What network telemetry provides is application analytics at a glance, employing LoadMaster plus Flowmon as the single pane of glass from which you can view your application estate running on LoadMaster. You'll have a view for all the traffic running through LoadMaster, as well as application or virtual service-specific dashboards as well to monitor all the activity on your estate. LMOS version 7253 expands the value it provides to customers with native LoadMaster support for the export of network telemetry data to an external collection and analysis device, such as Kemp Flowmon Collector. It does this by combining the power of the data available to LoadMaster by its virtue of being a key link in the application delivery chain with the power of Kemp Flowmon Probe's ability to compile and export NetFlow or IPFix telemetry data. The Kemp Flowmon Probe aggregates network data natively on LoadMaster, enabling lightweight yet incredibly detailed network and application monitoring when interpreted by a collector, such as Flowmon Collector. The collector then stores, processes, and analyzes the flow data and enables comprehensive network monitoring, diagnostics, and troubleshooting, as well as zero-day threat and anomaly detection. Collector is completely customizable through its modular approach to analytic technology. You can choose the mix of collector modules that suit your deployment and data analysis goals. How do we get started with LoadMaster network telemetry? So what I'm showing you here on the right is basically my little lab environment where I have a LoadMaster probe running two virtual services, very simple services, with a bunch of servers behind the LoadMaster. Then I've got a network collector, a Flowmon collector, running on the side, as well as a Windows or Linux system running the bash shell available to me to run the script. The first couple of steps are relatively simple. You need to install or upgrade to LoadMaster version 7253 and then navigate to the network telemetry page in the UI to download the Flowmon collector. Next, you install the Flowmon collector on a supported hypervisor and perform setup tasks. There has to be a bidirectional network path between the collector and the LoadMaster. Back on the LoadMaster, you configure network telemetry by adding the collector's IP address. This automatically starts the probe exporter on LoadMaster. Next, on a network device that supports the bash shell and communicates with Flowmon collector, you download the LoadMaster dashboard installer, create the required JSON input file, and run the script. Finally, after the script is finished, open a browser, log into the Flowmon collector, and click the Dashboards and Reports icon. So what does this all look like? Here on the LoadMaster, I'm running 7253, and this is licensed with a default VLM Max trial license, the kind of license you'd get if you just spin up a VLM from our website and apply a trial license. At the left is the network telemetry target. Once you click that, it opens up a page devoted to network telemetry on which you see the following controls. Clicking the Download Flowmon Collector button opens the collector download page in a new window of your currently open browser. So what does the installation look like? So after clicking the download button, you're taken to a redirect page, which should only spin for a couple of seconds, and then down to then over to the download page, where you have to enter or create a Kemp ID and password. Here I'm just entering mine. Choose your hypervisor, your country, and then agree to the EULA. And we're just watching here me going through these steps to download a collector for the KVM Zen hypervisor. And once the download begins, you're taken to a new page that shows you the checksum information. Now that the collector is downloading, I just want to go back and describe some of the configuration parameters that are available for network telemetry. Obviously at the top we've got the IP address for the collector, and we'll fill that in once the collector is downloaded. The global settings for timeouts are for flows to be exported. They're not connection timeouts or anything like that. These are specific to the probe, and by and large you should leave these set to the defaults. The export protocol is set to IP fix, and that is the only export protocol available in this version. Future versions will have NetFlow v9 also available. In the advanced settings, you can tune the data that is sent to the collector in the probe data. By default, all of these options are checked on, and then finally you select the interfaces for which the probe will export data, and by default all active or interfaces that have an IP address will be turned on. Okay, so now that we've downloaded the collector, we can install it and do some setup tasks. Installation involves running the sysconfig command from the console and setting up the first management port. After you do that, you can go to the UI and do the other tasks, tasks 2 through 7 at the bottom of this slide. That involves changing passwords, configuring your time zone and NTP. This may be the most critical step, step number 3, besides setting the IP addresses, because you want your time zone to be correct so that it correlates the data correctly from your probe or probes that may be running on your network. And then, of course, do things like changing the admin name and email address, installing a proper SSL certificate, configure the management interfaces and routing, and configuring a DNS server. I'm showing you some of the screens that you see while you're doing this on the collector, and we'll look at those again later. Basically, there is a configuration center in Flowmon that has all of these controls, and what you're looking at here is just the general system settings screen and the time zone settings. The messages that you're seeing at the top here on right are messages that you'll see on collector once the LoadMaster starts running. There is an alert system on collector, and it will alert you as soon as it starts receiving probe data from the LoadMaster. So configuring network telemetry on LoadMaster is very easy. The only thing that you really need to do is to provide the collector endpoint, which is an IP address or an IP address : port. You can also validate that you can connect to, that you can ping the connector rather, not connect to it, so that you can understand whether you got the right address. Once that's done, the probe starts running. Once you have the collector set up properly and the LoadMaster is talking to it and sending probe information, you can run the collector script. This is done on, as I said before, a separate system, either a Linux server or a Windows server that is running the bash shell. You'll also need a utility called JQ, and this is described very well in the documentation for the collector script. To run the script, you specify the script name and then -t and either new, saved, or refresh to tell the script how you want to get your API key from the collector. In this case, I'm just getting a new one. As the script runs, it's going to spit out some of the information from the configuration file, which I'm showing you at right. The configuration file is a simple JSON format file that describes all of the IP addresses and ports for the VSs and real servers on LoadMaster, in addition to some other information. Most notably, I'm focusing in on the right on this VS client expression, which characterizes the client traffic coming into the VS. This is the simplest filter that you can use for that traffic, being any. So any traffic traveling to and from that VS IP address will be analyzed by the collector as being part of that VS traffic flow. As you see on the left, the script is running quite nicely, and as long as we keep getting those hexadecimal looking IDs in the script output, then everything is fine and the script is running properly. If you see null, or there's just nothing there instead of one of those hex looking numbers, then there's some problem with the script running. This script should run regardless of what your setup is on the collector, because here you're just setting up a bunch of internal resources that the collector uses to display the dashboard data. You could run the script as is and then later on go in and change all of the IP addresses used in the filters. So now we're at the point where we've got the probe running on LoadMaster, the collector is installed, and the script has been run so that we have a set of dashboards now on the collector that will reflect the organization that's on the LoadMaster. So once the data is flowing for, say, 5 to 10 minutes between the collector and the LoadMaster, you'll start seeing some data on the collector. The probe runs on a 5-minute interval, so you need to wait at least 5 minutes for data to start flowing. But once it does, and I've been running the data obviously through this collector for a while so that you can see the data more clearly instead of just having a few minutes of data. I've got about 2 hours of data here. And you'll see that the default dashboard is there, and it actually is named for the LoadMaster, and it's got real data running through it. So you see it's LoadMaster LB100, that's the default LoadMaster name. And you also see these two other tabs. These are for the VSs. I have two imaginary apps running here called Sales App and Support App, and I've been running some representational level of traffic through them. And of course that data is showing up here in the collector. You've got basically traffic graphs that show the server side, the client side, and each individual real server, along with these red, yellow, green indicators on the right that talk about retransmissions. Retransmissions are a particular problem in networks, and when you have a very high retransmission index, that indicates a low level of retransmissions. So you want that number somewhere above 99%. Anything below that is generally indicative of some sort of issue. And also you get this nice little diagram here that shows you the topology of the VS. So this is all done by the script that we ran a few minutes ago, and is really where the power of this whole integration lies. The fact that you can look at this information, not just from the LoadMaster view, but from the point of view of each individual application and its topography. And that's it. Now you've got a working network telemetry infrastructure for your LoadMaster and can analyze the data coming out of it with the massive amount of tools that are available to you on the collector. I'll be doing another video to take a deeper dive into collector, how the infrastructure is structured, for the dashboards and widgets you create, whether you use the script or not. I'll also talk more about the collector in general and the additional facilities it provides that you can use to make a custom dashboard environment for your LoadMaster. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll be talking to you again soon.